Good evening and welcome to the special meeting of the City Council of the City of Moreno Valley Community Services District, City as Successor Agency for the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Moreno Valley Housing Authorities, and the Board of Library Trustees. The City Council receives a separate stipend for CSD meetings. I now call this special meeting to order on January 9th, 2018 at about 5:14 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Frank Wright.
Everyone face the flag, repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Frank. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gaiba,
I'm here.
let the record reflect Councilmember Marquez is absent. Councilmember Cabrera,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Baca,
Here.
Mayor Gutierrez.
Present. Staff introductions, please.
Pat Huck is not a city clerk.
Marshall Ironman, Chief Financial Officer, City Treasurer.
Martin Kazanowicz, City Attorney.
Tom DeSantis, City Manager.
Alan Brock, Community Development Director.
Michael Wolf, Public Works Director, City Engineer.
Kathleen Sanchez, Director, Human Resources.
All right, thank you. And then just to let the audience know as well, if you are here for the street change item, this item will actually still be coming back to council. This item for tonight is just to start the initiation, of that change. It would still need to go to the Historical Preservation Board, and then from there it would come back to council. So it's just a matter of just directing the staff to go down that route. But we will now hear public comments on matters on the agenda only. And we have two items that are on the agenda. One is A1, which is the initiation of street name change process, to start the change process, but it's not to actually do it because that's going to come back. And then we also have A2, which is the 2018 City Council Commission Board and Task Force Participation Appointments. So any public comments do need to be on the matters on those two items. And Madam Clerk, how many speakers do we have tonight?
28.
28, okay. So because of the amount of speakers, I am going to limit it to 2 minutes. Go ahead and call the first three speakers. 2 minutes per speaker.
Brandon Carn, Alice Bradley, Marias Van Hala.
Okay, if you can please come to the podium. And then the other two speakers, if you can please be ready.
I have 2 minutes, all right. Well, good evening. There are many reasons to reject renaming Theodore Street, not only for the history, but for primarily those who are supporting it. There's no need to change the name for something like the World Logistics Center. The common average person can locate Theodore Street in that land just the same. At present, the World Logistics Center, all that it exists of it now, are empty fields and vacant lots. And of course, its 2015 approval is still in the courts being upheld, so it's not moving forward. It should be known that the individual behind the World Logistics Center, Iru Benzivi, and the many companies he has had over the last 35 years almost have owned the same parcels of land, promised large-scale proposals just like this, such as the Moreno International Trade Center Airport, Moreno Highlands. Each individually promised between 20 to 50,000 jobs on their own time. We all know about the many exaggerated role it had in the Skechers building. Hundreds of jobs it did not produce when the Skechers building was eventually produced, primarily with the resources of Skechers. If you look anywhere in the background in the track record of Mr. Benzivi or any company he's had in the Inland Empire or throughout Southern California, there is almost no actual development or completed projects from this individual in San Bernardino, Banning, Tulare, or anywhere he has been active. At present, the city council or the city is still owed $100,000 at least by Highland Fairview over World Logistics Center lawsuits. In 2011, The city allowed the paying of over $110,000 for Rancho Balago signs at the request of Highland Fairview, which still dot eastern end of the city in empty fields and lots. And to conclude my final point, while this has all happened, Highland Fairview has spent well over $3 million in Moreno Valley elections instead of paying these costs itself. And a company called Healthcare Conglomerate Associates, or HCCA, that Mr. Benzivi began with his brother in Tulare, is embroiled in a controversy regarding the closure of Tulare County's Regional Medical Center, which is part of an ongoing county criminal probe in Tulare County, as well as the laying off of 500 employees.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Alice and Marcus, or Marquise.
Good evening. I'm Alice Bradley, president of the Moreno Valley Historical Society. Established in 1984, the Historical Society is made up of people who care about the history and heritage of our community. And it is for that reason that tonight I urge that you deny this process to change the name of Theodore Street. I first want to point out that there is little reason other than to limit discussion to hold this special meeting at a time that few people can or will attend. If you want to consider this proposal, it should be done when the most people are available to engage in the discussion. I also want to strongly urge denial of this name change. Theodore Street is part of our heritage. In fact, my husband's aunt and uncle lived there for 50 years, raising their children there, watching their grandchildren play there. In fact, one of their grandchildren is still a business owner in Moreno Valley. Changing the name to recognize the World Logistics Center has the effect of only bowing to one member of the community, not the diverse and rich history of our area. This name change is simply one more way to make our community look and feel like every other place. And to honor what? Warehouses. Do we really want to honor warehouses that many of us see as a blight on our community? We can be better than that. Moreno Valley can be known for more than just warehouses. We can continue to honor our past and a past pioneer, Mr. Theodore Clark, while building our future, but this name change does neither. Do the right thing tonight and kill this proposal before it goes any further. Let Theodore Street alone and instead focus your attention on making our streets and communities safe. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Alice. Next speaker is Mr. Van Helle.
Evening.
Good evening.
I'm Marcus Van Halle, and I'm representing the Historical Society as well. I'm a recent citizen.
Oh, can you speak into the
Sure.
microphone? Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
We'll take note of the fact that I have been a resident of Moreno Valley now for just 32 years. And in that time, I've been witness to the great debates that have gone on regarding the development of our great city. It's a comfort to know that we are able to approach major questions like this in a civil way and consider all the available points of view. As a member of the Historical Society, I take great pleasure in realizing that those people who have dedicated a great portion of their lives to making our city recognizable with an identity of its own is something that cannot be replaced. I am all in favor of every advantage that we can give to the World Logistics Center within reason. I'm sure that the signs and all available signage that can be made available will be made available. But I caution this council to preserve what we can preserve.
Thank you, Mr. Van Hel.
All right, thank you.
Next speaker we have is Diana LaCava. There you go. Thank you. Followed by Kathleen Dale and Keith Mullins.
I'm Deanna LaCava. If you live in Moreno Valley, then Moreno Valley's history is your history. Governments usually consider historical preservation during town planning. This was done early in our city's history. We became a city in '84, and by 1988, we had passed a resolution to protect the name of Alessandro Boulevard because the history of Moreno Valley includes the history of Alessandro. That history is interesting and important. You can find Alessandro on even the earliest maps of this area. The following year, in 1989, one more resolution was passed, CPAB 89-3, giving historic landmark status to the other historic avenue and street names, including Theodore Street, to protect them from change in order to preserve an important part of Moreno Valley history. These original street names hold the story of the beginnings of Moreno Valley. If you live in Moreno Valley, these stories are your stories to tell your children about where they live. This history is our common bond. In a city of over 200,000 people with one thing in common, the history of Moreno Valley, the city government has a responsibility to continue to preserve our city's history. However dynamic our city is or becomes, our people's identity is defined by the culture and history of where we live. Without history and culture, we would have an empty society that only cares about profits rather than compassion and caring for each other. It's important to keep our history alive in this city by continuing to protect our historic street names from change, protecting our history for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Next speaker is Kathleen Dale, Keith Mullins, and Eduardo Gomez.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Dale, resident of Moreno Valley since 1958. The Theodore Street item that's before you tonight and its hasty scheduling at a special meeting, it's simply repulsive. This is the shameful abuse of power by the council majority and apparently complicit staff on behalf of one benefactor to the detriment of the community as a whole. You simply should not initiate this name change process and the related stripping of the historic designation for the original street names. You should also take into consideration that the costs that have been presented to you in the staff report omit a couple of very important and potentially expensive costs, and that this self-serving action on behalf of an individual of dubious integrity and essentially no accomplishment will do nothing to improve the declining reputation of this city in the region. And I wanted to just briefly also address item A2, and the appointments continue to be woefully tipped towards the council majority, and you need to spread those assignments out more equitably amongst the entire council. Thank you.
Thank you. Next three speakers is Keith Mullins, Eduardo, and Florentino.
Good evening, council. First, I would like to say that I am not speaking as the chair of the City of Moreno Valley Environmental and Historical Preservation Board. I am speaking as myself, even though I do hold that position. And I want to let you know that I am opposed to this, and I will be making the recommendation to that board to also oppose it. Like several of the Historical Society members have already said, it's part of the history, and being that as my position in the city as historical preservation, I feel it is my job to help uphold it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speakers. Thank you.
Happy New Year to all of you guys. You know, it's glad to be back. And I'm always like to be able to come and be part of the movement. I want to thank the Mayor Pro Tem Victoria, Istian, and the rest of the City Council. I want to thank you guys, and I don't know how you guys put up with all this, but anyway, I definitely going to continue to pray. What I have is, if you ask the residents of Moreno Valley, they don't know who Theodore is or what he did it, and In reality, less than 1% of the population of Moreno Valley know who he is. It is irrelevant to Moreno Valley residents today. The World Logistics Center is, on the other hand, resounds with thousands of people that I personally met and talked to thousands of people who support the project. The World Logistics Center is tied to the success of Moreno Valley. I care about the history, but I have passion for the future. It's time for us to move on. Come on, we continually see the same old people, the same old nagging. You know what? We gotta see the future for our children, for our future generations. Come on, we gotta knock it off. We are not gonna support any more of the negative people to stop the progress of the city. We've been working, and the community and our residents, they want this to happen. And you know what? When you ask, where is Theodore, all they see is where the dump is. Come on, we got to give a better recognition. We got to change it from the dump to the future of Moreno Valley. Thank you very much.
Next speaker.
Hello, everybody. My name is Florentino Arreguin. I'm a local business owner, and I have been a resident of Moreno Valley for 17 years. And I plan on living here with my family for the long haul, so I do care about Moreno Valley. I understand that the name of Theodore Street was named after one of the founders of Moreno Valley, and Theodore Clark, and I think that was a good, honorable thing to do, back then at the time. Now, I do approve and recommend the name change, since the majority of us residents of Moreno Valley approved the new project, the World Logistics Center project, all the jobs and revenue that it will bring. Now, I think the name change will also help, not only for that purpose, but I think it would also help in directing traffic. So as the off-ramp, where do you get off? I mean, you can't miss the name, World Logistics Center Parkway. So that's one of the reasons. And the other reason is I think it would help in putting Moreno Valley on the map. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Florentino. Next three speakers is Douglas Haw, Robert Harris, and Pete Bleckert.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Council and audience and such. I'm probably one of the older members of Moreno Valley. I grew up on Theodore Street. I was born in 1934 and didn't leave that street until I was married and left in 53. A little bit of history about that street. The three houses that are built there north of the freeway, not counting Bezevi's on the hill, which we did own that for a little while, was all moved there by my uncle in the early 30s. He was moved from the Pisgah farm, which is in the southern end of, down by the hospitals, as well as 4 or 5 houses that was moved to the site of Moreno itself. I had the privilege and the such of knowing all of the farmers and ranchers up and down Theodore, worked on most of their equipment, their tractors and trucks and such, from the, it would have had to been from about 1957 to till I retired, or they moved out, one or the other. As far as changing the name of Theodore to whatever it's going to supposedly be, how is that really going to help the logistics center that they're planning on putting in? A street name is a street name. And here to tear up our history and historic streets, if they change the name of Theodore, what's going to happen later to Alessandro, Cottonwood, and any of the other major streets that are in the valley? So as a longtime resident of Moreno Valley, even though I don't live on Theodore anymore, it is kind of apprehensive to me to make that change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. And I do want to thank the audience as well. I know we have, there's been differing opinions, but we've been, you've all been very civil and respectful, so I do want to thank you. Okay, Robert?
Good evening, Council. Good evening, staff. I look at Theodore Street as it was a street in search of a name. And at the time, they're probably, what are we going to call it? What should we call it? And so this man that brought a pipe full of water to Moreno Valley, and I'm sure this man was for progress. I'm thankful that he did that, but I think that we need to continue his progress and bring jobs to Moreno Valley. And I think he would have liked that. And there are some examples of some of the reasons, like the Paris Street, it goes to the city of Paris. Moreno Beach, it goes to Lake Paris. Postal Avenue, the only post office in Moreno Valley, named, the only post office named street named Postal Avenue. Anyway, I think if you were to resurrect Mr. Clark, he would be around 160 years old now, and you asked him, what would you, do you think that we should do this? I think he would be for progress, just like he was back then when he brought water to this area. And anyway, I think we need to continue progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Next three speakers is Pete Bleckard, Bob Palomares, and Steve Figueroa.
Well, you just heard somebody talk about Moreno Beach. You don't know that had another name, Hendricks Ranch, which was their history. Nobody worried about changing that name. They changed John F. Kennedy. How many people know what the original name of that street was? Sunnymead Boulevard had an original name, changed it to Sunnymead Boulevard. So name changes have been done in this city. To me, you're just going through the process right now. If I was voting for it, I'd say make that name change. But on the north of the freeway, that should still be Theodore, because there was 3 or 4 residents. I went to school, one of them. And that should stay the same. On the other side, there was blank fields. So if you're going to change it, at least keep Theodore to the north of the freeway, Theodore. That's my suggestion. As far as history goes, we went through all this whole thing. Like I say, Riverside Raceway, some of these people say they've been here since '58. I was working out there when I was going to school, cutting school, and working out there at Riverside Raceway in 1957. Nobody cared about removing that name or even keeping any history to this city. Nobody. There's only one person that lived in this city that has history on that racetrack. That's me. Nobody else in this whole town that grew up here has history there. They don't care about that. Do I have a lot of history about Riverside Raceway? You're damn right I do, and nobody's going to get it. If I live long enough, I'll keep it until I'm gone. I hope Roy, when he leaves, he burns the damn stuff.
Okay. Bob Palomares.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. I'm in favor of the name change. I love history. I believe in history. And like Pete was saying, north of the freeway, leave it Theodore. It fits it. It looks good still on that side of the freeway. South of it, when the World Logistics comes in, believe me, Theodore just isn't going to fit it, the name. World Logistics, it's perfect. People are coming, looking, driving through our city. Oh, they're going to look to the left, World Logistics, and they're going to see it, and they're going to be amazed. They're going to say, wow, this is what they were talking about. And if they want to get off on Theodore, fine. They can go up. I guess it goes up to Ironwood. But I'm in absolute favor of, let's get with the program and advance. We can have both. If some people are nailed to the ground, they're not going to move. But if you pull those nails out, you'll move. Thank you.
Steve Figueroa. I'd first like to say I want to just give a few seconds to the 13 people that have passed in Santa Barbara. As we all get together, we should think about what's going on in the weather. And I'd like to follow up by saying I'm for the name change, because outside of Moreno Valley, the World Logistic is making a name for Moreno Valley. If some people don't want the jobs here, guess what? They're going to go to Arizona. They're going to go to Texas. They're going to go to Nevada. Okay? And it's better we keep the jobs here in California, where we keep that tax base here and the money that's generated from it. That's the gas, that's the building, that's the construction, all that money, all those jobs that are accumulated. Somehow the city benefits and the residents benefits. Why? Because when those taxes come in, you don't have to raise taxes. Why? Because they're creating jobs, they're creating revenue. Anyone who owns a business will know that this is a good idea. I don't know who Pete is, but that man has it right. He hit the nail on the head. He said very good. As far as those with the Historical Society, why aren't they arguing to say, let's name it something else? Captain Juan Bautista, he came through here. I'm a descendant of him. Let's name it, Governor Galvez, one of the first governors of California, even before California was part of the U.S. So much could be said. I think Pete, like I said, I sat there and listened and said, this guy's 100% right. You've got to move forward, create jobs. Who's tired of driving down the freeway with all the traffic, right? So if you have the jobs here, they don't have to drive. It just makes sense. The revenue comes here, so you can improve your roads, you can improve your own infrastructure. Why not do it? So the name change, I think it's a genius idea. It'll bring the attention to bring the jobs. Thank you.
Okay. Next three speakers is LaDonna Jemison, Scott Heverin, and Kendrick Rivas.
Thank you, council and staff. I stand before you as a resident. I am no longer on the Moreno Valley Historical Society board, but I am so thankful to these people who provided me and all the members information, education, and pride about the history of Moreno Valley, and I'm very thankful to them. I do want to clarify, too, there seems to be some confusion about the application being in the City of Moreno Valley's name and also it being submitted as an agenda item by the city attorney. Just for clarification, and correct me if I'm wrong, to get anything on the agenda, it has to be 2 council members or the mayor. And I don't see that the city attorney or the city staff has any personal reason why they would want to push this ahead, especially considering $74,000 would be the cost for the name change, and I'm assuming it's coming out of the general fund. But I do want to say that at one point in time, you had an advisory board, the Environmental Historical Preservation Board, that made the decision to hold on to history and name 30 streets in the city of Moreno Valley to have a historical landmark. And this is extremely important. This was your advisory board that did this in 1989. So I think we need to respect that decision. And I want you, please, to listen to your constituents. We may not have control of the future, but let us treasure our past.
Thank you. Next three speakers.
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
I'm Scott Heverin, and I like Pete's idea about, it sounds like a good compromise, but I'd even go further than that. Now, isn't this developer building miles of road inside of this complex? Let him name that World Logistics Center Parkway and leave the rest of the roads alone. And for this reason, he's donated heavily to your guys' campaigns. Is that what message we're going to tell people? Come in and buy our campaigns, and we'll name the roads whatever you want. Are we going to change Indian to Amazon? Are we going to, change Nason to Skechers? What's next? So just, I understand that he wants a road named after the World Logistics Center. Let him build the damn road and name it World Logistics Center Parkway.
Okay, next three speakers is Kendrick Rivas, John Myers, and Evan Morgan.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, council. Good evening, staff, and good evening, fellow citizens. The first disagreement would be, if you guys would go on to change the name, it should not be named Parkway, because I don't think in a city road they're supposed to be going 55 miles per hour, especially when there's a bunch of warehouses, and parkways are usually another name, like expressways, where vehicles will be traveling at a fast speed. And I agree with fellow speakers that you guys do go on to change the name. Keep the north side of the freeway Teeter Street. And also there will be having a bunch of other streets inside the World Logistics Center. And the World Logistics Center Parkway should be named within the World Logistics Center, not Teeter Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendrick. Next three speakers is John Myers, Evan Morgan, and Frank Wright.
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is John Myers. I've lived here since 1989. Both items that I'm going to mention are related. Our nation is currently in a struggle against big special interests money taking over, and I claim that the same is true here in Moreno Valley. I'm not happy with any entity that tries to ride roughshod over the interests of our community at large, which is what I see is happening here, as the possibility of a name change. Local history is important to preserve. The name of Theodore Street is unnecessary to be changed, for the simple reason that if and when they develop, they can name a street what they want then and go through the process then. Do not change local history for special interests. And the same goes for the possible rezoning of the northeast part of our city, which I know that in the long-term health of our city is best when handled by the master plan carefully planned out, and it's more important than appeasing special interest developers. I thank you for resisting corruption.
Next three speakers is Evan Morgan, Frank Wright, and Santiago Hernandez.
Good evening, City Council. Winston Churchill said, history is written by the victor. And to touch on what someone else was saying, there's so many historical figures from Southern California from before we were a state, before this was a part of our country, but we don't recognize a lot of that stuff until recently, because we started becoming more progressive and we started understanding that we have a richer history previous to when we just came in and took stuff over. With that said, when I look at our history, I look at more of the history of Redlands, that then they also said, oh, let's also just make some money over here too. Because most of these people made their fortunes in Redlands. So I see a lot of names of people. Mr. Brown, who the city of Moreno is named after, made his fortune in Redlands. So we're all about these people who kind of just came over here and made extra money over in this land and brought water over here, and we were simple people, and a lot of people still want to stay simple. And it's a beautiful thought process, and I respect them, and I respect that thought process. But you can't be that simple people when you live an hour and a half with traffic outside of Los Angeles. You're in Southern California, and all of this is expanding and growing and growing. And if we want to stay competitive with the cities around us, like Ontario, Rancho Cucamonga, Riverside, we have to compete for the future, not try to stay in the past. So I completely agree with what Pete said. Let's keep the north side Theodore so we can still honor our heritage, but we need to progress for the future and make it the World Logistics Center Parkway in the south. Thank you.
Thank you. Next three speakers is Frank Wright, Santiago, and Sandra Murphy.
Honorable Mayor, council members, and staff. The development of the water pipeline from Big Bear to Moreno by the noted director Theodore Clark of the Bear Valley Alexander Development Company was a major event in 1981 to the development and expansion of the city of Moreno Valley. The world of today's progress is inevitable. Our graduation students are stepping into a changing world, having to accommodate for, and their next generation born into a vast changing life. And if Mr. Clark was still able to be here today, he would most likely to have granted the change of the name of Theodore Street to World Logistic Parkway, or whatever it may be, in viewing the foundations, in viewing the potential development of the World Logistics Center that he had laid down the foundation and possibilities for back in his time. Therefore, truly, he was a man of high standards and definite change for better progress of the people. That's what we see today. It has previously stated that an overpass from March Air Force Base, probably down the Cactus Boulevard to Theodore Street, built in providing the vast structure trucking industry to ease the city traffic. Nevertheless, all progress was a start by the water pipeline structure and to be properly well endorsed by the future name of World Logistic Parkway. It is well encouraged that the city make the name change, which will still enhance the development of the city's cosmetics to come, and to development of the city's future historical sites, which will always become. Thank you.
Good evening, councils, mayor, and staff. Happy New Year, 2018. And I wanna say I'm in a pro change of this street because the man Theodore Clark, he didn't do as much for getting this name on the street. For me and for all the historical society, the Cahuilas, the Native Americans make more than him. And they live here for thousands of years, not 100 years ago. So the historical society is rewriting everything. Why cannot change that name if we go in the process of getting better this town, Moreno Valley, in the process of prosperity? If they do that, if they rewrite the history of the Native Americans, why we cannot change this one in the same propose they do? Because they do that in the name of of the progress. If World Logistics Center is going to do that in the name of the progress, so Theodore is an
Thank you, Santiago.
X.
Next three speakers is Sandra, Leo, and Antonio. Yes, Sandra.
Good evening. Happy New Year to you guys. And I hope this year will be much better. To honor history and the persons who built a town is accept progress. Progress, one thing is has to be changes. When changes come, of course it's going to be disagreements. But we have to analyze. The change is to help one or many. In this project, everybody's beating up Ito. Well, let me tell you something. Ito is one person. The World Logistic Project, it will take thousands of people, and it will change the life of thousands of people. Let's not focus on one person because you hate a person, you will not accept change. You will not accept progress. For all you council, work in this and move on. Move on from your hate or your dislike of one person. Look into the group that you're going to help. And that's the next generations, because some of us, we're gonna be gone by the time this project is end. But it's gonna be millions in the future who will benefit from that. So let's get one thing straight. You're in or you're out. And I agree. The north side should be kept with the same name. Change it the other way because that's what indicates. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Next three speakers is Leo, Antonio, and Tom.
Hello, everybody. Usually I don't take up time, but I'm going to take up time this time. I want to put something in a perspective for everybody here, audience and everybody alike. Does everybody realize that right now we are living in history? This is history right now. The WLC vote is a historical vote. It doesn't matter if you agree with it. It doesn't matter if you not agree with it. So what history are we going to preserve? Are we going to preserve the history that we can only agree with? Are we only going to preserve history that only goes back 150 years, 300 years? I find it interesting that Stephen Figueroa came up here and said that Juan Bautista de Anza led an expedition through here. Not a lot of people know that. Where's that history? And as a matter of fact, if you go down to the Paris Regional Indian Museum, you'll find a lot of history there. Where's it at here? If the historical board wants a project, I'll give you guys a project. Theodore Clark was directly involved in bringing water to Moreno Valley. The old water tunnel is still over there, and the wall is in ruins. Go get that project, erect it again, build a museum in honor of Theodore Clark, and then I'll believe the rhetoric, because up until now, the only people that I see up here is the same people coming up here, whining, bitching, and complaining about anything that has to do with Ido Benzivi, the WLC, how evil he is, and it's the same rhetoric. It's getting old. And another thing, I can't stand when people come up here and say, oh, we're going to spend $75,000 on street name changes when recalls cost how much? $100,000? So don't give me the crap, guys. I don't buy it. Let's move on with history. Let's make history.
Okay, quiet, guys. Thank you. Okay, next three speakers is Antonio, Tom, and David.
Buenas noches.
Good evening.
Vengo como residente de Moreno Valley por
I'm
más
here
de
as
20
a
años.
resident of Moreno Valley for over 20 years.
La
It
razón
should
por
be
qué
4 minutes. Oh, un momento. It should be 4 minutes for the interpreting.
Gracias. La razón por la que nosotros
Can you change it,
apoyamos.
Pat? Yeah. Okay. Un momento. Ya va.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
La razón por la que nosotros apoyamos el cambio
The reason we are supporting the change
es muy simple.
is very simple.
La Comisión de Planificación
The Commission of Planification
recomendó 6-1 a favor del
recommended
proyecto.
6-1 in favor of the project.
El Concilio votó 5-0 a favor del proyecto.
The council voted 5-1 in favor,
Hicieron un referéndum el grupo que se opone y lo perdieron.
and the opposing group lost.
Hicimos nosotros una iniciativa y la ganamos.
We created an initiative and we won.
Hicieron otro referéndum y lo perdieron.
Another referendum was made and they lost.
Metieron una demanda.
There was a lawsuit.
La juez
And the judge,
Waters decidió a favor del proyecto.
decided in favor of the project.
¿El proyecto qué implica?
What does the project imply?
Trabajos,
Work, jobs,
prosperidad,
prosperity,
más dinero a la ciudad.
more money for the city.
Yo he escuchado a todos los que están en contra.
I've heard everyone who is opposing.
Ponlos juntos a ellos
Put them together
y ve cuántos trabajos proveen en la ciudad.
and see how many jobs they provide for
Ponlos
the
juntos a
city.
ellos
Put them together
y mira qué proyecto tiene para la ciudad.
and look at the project that they have for the city.
La historia es importante, claro.
History is important, of course,
Enseñan los libros y en las escuelas,
but that is taught by books,
en las
textbooks,
casas.
and school, at home,
en una calle, el nombre de una
not
calle.
only by the name of a street.
Debemos entender nosotros
We must understand
que la ciudad ya habló.
that the city has already spoken
No.
and has screamed and yelled out very loudly
Yo,
and repeated
que eso no se va a detener.
that is not going to stop.
Es muy triste porque siempre oigo las mismas mentiras.
It's sad to hear the same lies, corruption,
Smog,
the fact that there's an
Tráfico.
smoke, traffic,
las mentiras de siempre.
the lies, the same old lies.
Es muy triste cuando hablan de ética
It's really sad when they speak about ethics
y se dedican a mentir.
and they lie.
En nombre del racismo.
In the name of racism.
El racismo es espantoso.
It's horrible.
Hiro es un hombre como todos nosotros.
You know, it's a man just like everyone
Humilde, noble,
who's humble and noble.
próspero.
He's
Que
prosperous
quiere bendecir la ciudad.
and he wants to bless the city.
Jamás he mirado nada malo en él.
I have never seen anything bad in him.
Estamos a favor del proyecto.
We are in favor of the project,
Gracias a Dios por cada uno de ustedes.
and I thank God for every single one of you
Preocupo por la comunidad.
because you care about the community.
El grupo siempre está buscando pretextos, mentiras,
This
atacando.
group is always looking for lies and it's always attacking,
Debe de parar.
and that has to stop.
Si de verdad aman la ciudad,
If they truly love the city,
de buscar lo mejor para la
they
ciudad.
have to seek what is best for the
Trabajos,
city. Jobs,
familia, comunidad.
family, community.
Es tiempo de no escuchar la mentira.
It's time not to listen to lies.
Cuando ustedes no hacen lo que ellos dicen, inmediatamente amenazan con un recall.
And when you guys don't listen to what they want, they threaten you with a recall.
Pero quiero decirles
But I
que
want to tell
todas
you
las batallas las hemos ganado
that
limpiamente.
all the battles have been won cleanly.
Estamos listos
And
para
I am
ganar la
ready,
que viene.
and we are ready to win the battle
Nosotros amamos la ciudad.
because we love the city.
Queremos lo mejor para la
We
comunidad.
want what is best for the community.
No para nosotros,
Not for
para la
us,
comunidad.
but the community.
Y es tiempo de poner las cosas en claro.
And it's time to make things clear.
No es un capricho.
This is not
Los
capricious.
grupos como ellos se han ido más de 8,000 compañías de California.
Because groups like this, 80,000
Han
companies have
perdido
left California.
Trabajos,
And thousands of
billones de
jobs,
dólares.
millions of dollars have been lost.
Debemos oír más.
We should not listen anymore.
Que destruye y daña.
What damages and
comunidad.
destroys our community.
Sean valientes.
Be
Y
brave,
veamos el futuro de la
courageous,
ciudad.
and let's do the
Y
future of
hagamos
the
lo
city.
mejor de lo mejor.
And let's do what is
Y
best.
las generaciones que vienen
And the generations that are to
sean como
come
verdaderos héroes.
will see us as true heroes.
Siga adelante.
So let's keep moving forward.
Thank you. Okay, Tom, David, and then Roy.
Tom Jarrell, speaking on behalf of myself and also on behalf of Dan Connie, who's the managing partner for Sundance Center. I told him about the meeting tonight and the issues at hand. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, members of staff, and the public, thank you for this dialogue. You know, I love that old saying, there's two kinds of fools. One says, this is the old way, so it's got to be good, because it's the way we've always done it. The other one says, this is new, so it's got to be better. Well, the reality is neither are correct. You know, I'm a great respecter of history. Any of you who know me personally know I love history, you know, global, national, state, regional, and certainly local. And in fact, I've enjoyed the dialogue tonight. I've learned more about Theodore, Mr. Clark, and I didn't even know this before the meeting. So it's a good thing that, you know, we bring this out. And I am a believer in respecting history. I like that idea of the water tunnel being, you know, restored. I mean, that's a great monument to the man's legacy. As far as, you know, name changes, I mean, 60 Freeway, when I moved there, was the Moreno Freeway. Now I think it's called Sonny Bono Freeway. I like Sonny. He was a good guy, you know. But so we got Harley Knox Boulevard, formerly Nandina. We got Automall Parkway. So, you know, times change, people change, names change. And but I love the compromise that Mr. Bleckert brought up. I support it. I think it makes common sense. And, you know, why not, you know, if you go along Foothill Boulevard, it'll say Foothill Boulevard, and it'll say historic Route 66. You know, if we want to, you know, acknowledge Mr. Clark, formerly, or historic Theodore Street, and, you know, to remember the man. So, and as far as committees and recommendations, I served almost 4 years on the original General Plan Committee from 85 till 89. Come 92, Linda Gillis, who was a staffer, not even a member of the public, or public, not Public Works, but Community Development, she came and trashed it and threw it in the can and said, you know, we're going to start all over on our own volition. So, you know, it happens. So I thank you for your time and listening to the public input.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker is David, followed by Roy, and then Rafael.
Hi, my name's David Zeitz, resident since '83. first thing I want to say is shame on the people that don't know the history of the town that they call home. They should know the history and know why streets are named certain things. Now, as for naming streets and renaming streets, it happens all over. I would just request of the council at this point is to table this until at least it breaks ground. That way, in the end, if something happens, we're not going to be the laughing stock of the county or the state, that we rename streets for a project for some reason that never came around. It's just common sense. Let the project be built. And when it is built, then change your names. Why do we want to change something that's can possibly not happen? And what fools we would look if we did that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Ignore Pete at your own peril, because nobody on this planet or nobody in this room has done that more than I have, and I can tell you this for 100% fact. That does not work out very well. He offered the perfect solution to this. It preserves our heritage. It preserves the street name, keeping Theodore north of the freeway. It also puts Moreno Valley at the head of progress, at the head of opportunity, and recognizing one of the biggest projects in the world that's going to be in this city, the World Logistics Center. We should be looking forward in this city, also, and preserving our past. And what is even more impressive to me, and I'm very proud of, is the broad spectrum of people that have come up here and agreed with Pete's solution. So I'm asking the mayor and this council to get behind that. I'm asking all in the audience to get behind that. We should preserve Theodore north of the freeway so it does our heritage. I agree with Leo. We should rebuild the water park to show that we appreciate our heritage, but we also want to 100% support jobs, opportunity, and everything that we really need in this city to bring us up from where we are to where we could be. And that's naming that street south of the freeway, World Logistics Parkway, because that's going to bring jobs, opportunity, and what this community needs. That should be a slam dunk. 5-0, the Historical Society should get behind it. The Historical Board and all citizens in Moreno Valley should get behind it because it's the right thing to do.
Next speaker is Rafael and Luis.
Can I use Roy's 9 seconds? He left 9 seconds there. Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, our residents and guests. I hope tonight that this item will go forward because it's not completed. Even you said it yourself that it has to come back. Complete it. Whether Theodore will be on the north or not, I don't know. It hasn't been done yet or talked about. But I do know that the World Logistics represents everything that we have done in this city that includes Amazon, Harbor Freight, and all those big companies that are Fortune 500s. World Logistics is a mark that the residents voted for and made the mayor in charge to bring forth. That's his job, to bring that future forth. That's why we voted for you, okay? Now, we don't want to take away anything from people that have lived here for 30, 40, 50 years. I got deep respect. But I like what Mr. Harris said. Theodore brought water, progress. Gotta remember that. That has to be true. If he brought water, that was progress to help Moreno Valley. If he was here today, I wish his son would come and talk, as he says, as a business here. Because he would look for business opportunities so his business can grow. That's a fact. Because without businesses, Moreno Valley would not be here today. Okay? So the mayor has an obligation to the voters. And each one of you have an obligation to your voters in your district, because that's why they voted for you, for progress. Okay? Let's see where the chips fall. Okay? That's what we want. People fought for progress. The World Logistic Parkway means progress. The staff fought for progress. Honor the staff with progress.
Thank you, Rafael.
Wow, another action-packed meeting. While the East Enders, the miserable, the stop progress people are here again, yelling and screaming and crying. And I know Mrs. Murphy said something about hate and all that, but it's not the 3 council members here in the middle. It's the 2 in the end. Mr. Gaiva, so call the name out. And I said, say the name, Mr. Gaiva and Marcus. And their people are here, you know, starting the same old nonsense again, talking about the money. Well, with these recalls, the money it costs us. All this investigation, this phony baloney investigation, the DA, the IRS, the FBI were in our city. They didn't care about that. They didn't care what it costs, right? They're worrying about a dollar bill, and then I hear something about 7 council members. If you can't do the job, Gaiva and Marcus, get off the seat and let somebody have the opportunity to do it. Why do we need 2 more council members? Isn't that going to cost us a big dollar to have more council members in here? What are you talking about? Have you lost your mind? I'm so sick and tired of coming to this council meeting with the same old nonsense. We want to live in the 21st century, not in the 19th century. I'm not taking nothing away from Mr. Theater. That's great. But he brought water, like they say. That was progress. And I think if we could resurrect him, like they said, Robert Harris, I think it would say, let's go forward. Hey, this is what was my dream was, for jobs, for progress, for development, for all that's going to come with it. So we got the same old crybaby, the same miserable 12, the same EastEnders, the same haters saying the same thing. And you want to go back and talk about history. Let's talk about your history, LaDonna. You care about so much about history. Why didn't you tell us about your history when you were running for the seat, lying, involved with a recall? Why didn't you tell us that? No, we're talking about history. Shut up. I'm talking, please.
Please.
I'm talking, please. This is my 3 minutes. My 2 minutes.
Okay.
So anyway,
Okay.
this is what
Thank
I
you,
got to
Luis.
say.
Okay.
We need to go into the 21st
Okay.
century and get out
Luis.
of the 19th century. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next speaker is Chris.
Hi, guys. No, it's been a while since I've been here. I've been sick with the flu for the holiday and everything. But I wanted to be here tonight to say that I value history a lot, and I look at some of the suggestions tonight, especially what Pete and what other people are saying, and I think there should be some kind of consensus. We should talk about this and rediscuss it, maybe even have a city vote if there's a way to afford that somehow, where everyone comes together and we see how the city is on the subject, everybody's opinion, before we change the name, because what if more of the city wants it to stay the same name than the other, it should be something where everybody comes together and works together instead of all this bickering. I'm just saying, a vote isn't a bad idea, and I like the idea that Pete was talking about, the North End being still that street name in honor of, and the museum's a really good idea. It should be done. I totally agree 100% with the museum, because Theodore, he's a major part of this town's history, The waterway is in ruins and should be fixed and preserved if possible. That's my opinion on it and my take. And I just wanted to say that tonight. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, next speaker is Jorge Quintero. And then Jorge, interpreter? Yes? Okay. Where's the interpreter?
That's for that gentleman, so.
Oh, okay. All right, so, Pat? Okay. Oh, okay. You know what? We'll have Eduardo.
Oh, bueno, usted. Está bien.
No offense. Okay, okay. All right.
Buenas noches.
Good evening.
Mayor Gutierrez,
Mayor
concejales,
Gutierrez,
y miembros del staff,
member of the City Council,
padres y público aquí en
to all the
presentes.
people here present.
Yo apoyo 100% la medida de cambiar el nombre.
I support 100% the support for the change of the project, the street.
Porque considero que pues, es una buena persona que quiere el progreso de Moreno Valley.
Because I believe that what's the best for our community of Moreno Valley.
Hace un mes, el hijo de un amigo que acaba de entrar a la Universidad de Santa Cruz hizo un proyecto.
About a month ago, a friend of mine that I know, he did a project.
Y se tocaba el tema de aquí de Moreno Valley, del centro logístico que quieren hacer.
That's the subject of the World Logistics Center that's going to take place over here.
Y me pidió mi opinión y yo digo, las cosas contradictorias y las cosas buenas siempre va a haber.
Then what I say to him, there's the pros and the cons. There is always going to happen.
Claro que un desarrollo económico de esa magnitud, de esa inversión, pues claro que va a traer va a tener sus consecuencias, pero por lo general las consecuencias van a ser en beneficio de nuestra comunidad.
Okay, and of course, when the project at that magnitude definitely is going to bring a lot of opposition, but in reality, we have to focus on what the benefits will be.
Es mejor hacer algo que estar sentados y criticando cosas positivas.
It's better to do something than be sitting around nagging, and we should be doing positive things.
Yo le dije al muchacho que me entrevistó, que claro, esto hay gente que se opone como los ambientalistas, pero más bien es por corrupción de que quieren sacar su ventaja.
And it's true, and environmentalists, they always going to oppose that because in reality, because of the opposition, because they really want to push their own agendas.
Pero yo le dije que ese proyecto nos iba a poner en el mapa mundial.
And what I say to him, my friend, that the project was going to put us in the map worldwide.
Y mucha gente iba a tener oportunidad de tener un empleo, porque la mayoría de nosotros trabajamos en construcción.
Because in what I say, that was going to bring many jobs, because for us that we work in construction,
tenemos que levantarnos a las 4 de la mañana.
We have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Llegar a las 6 o 8 de la noche a la casa.
So we can come back at 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Y queremos que nuestros hijos
and we want our children
o los hijos de nuestros amigos
or
pues
the
tengan
children of our friends,
trabajar en un proyecto como ese.
and we want the children of our friends to come and work locally in this project.
El muchacho que me entrevistó estuvo contento por la explicación que le di.
And this gentleman that interviewed me, he was very happy for the response that I gave him.
Es como decir el norte de Estados Unidos que era industrial.
It's like the north of California, the west very industrious.
Norte de Estados Unidos.
The north of the United States.
Porque había muchas fábricas y muchas industrias, pero eso dio el progreso a Estados Unidos.
But see, it was because of all the jobs that were there, because of the progress of the United States.
Si no, Estados Unidos no hubiera progresado como los países europeos.
Otherwise, the United States would have never progressed like the rest of the European nations.
Yo considero que es un buen proyecto y la gente está contenta porque se haga ese proyecto y que cambien el nombre a una persona que ha contribuido para Moreno Valley.
I think that's a very good project. He supported it because it's going to be acknowledged of someone who's doing very positive thing for the city of Moreno Valley. Thank you very much. Then I know that you guys are going to make the right decision.
Gracias. Espero
Thank you.
que tengan una buena decisión.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break, and then we'll be right back. Thank you, and welcome back to the special city council meeting. That concludes all of the public comments. We just finished the public comments. We are going to go straight to our item. The first one is A1, initiation of street name change process, report of city attorney. And then we'll go staff report, then council questions, and then deliberation. Because it is a special meeting, the public comments was at the beginning. Okay, so Mr. City Attorney, go ahead and report.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, as correctly identified by the mayor in the beginning of the public comment period, the item before you is not to make any final decisions today. The item before you on your direction from staff is here to present you with a proposed application which needs to be filed before the environmental board for a recommendation that's going to come back to you at some point in time for a final decision on this issue. The council directed us to bring this forward in order to consider changing Theodore to World Logistics Center Parkway. The applications that is attached considers the entire length of Theodore, from Ironwood all the way to its southerly terminus, which is all the way past Cactus, I believe. The application in the map has the specific dimensions. The street named Theodore was designated as a historical landmark, and in order to change it, you need to go through the process of basically either a repeal or a modification to that designation. And that process, as outlined, is to bring the application before the board, have the board take action on it, and then return it here for your final decisions on the issue. The costs that are identified in the staff report pertain to a consultant, which would assist the city in taking the proposal through the Caltrans process and establishing the costs and doing everything up to the actual purchase of the signs, should council move forward with that direction. There will be other costs that staff cannot identify yet until that preparation process is done in advance of that. With that, I'll answer any questions that you might have, and I'll turn it over to the city manager for some additional information.
Thank you, Martin. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, as city staff, we are very enthusiastic about this proposal to rename Theodore as this major arterial in recognition of the World Logistics Center. This project, approved after more than 50,000 initiative signatures from residents, represents our community's exciting future as the economic engine of inland Southern California. The WLC puts Moreno Valley in the center of the most rapidly growing segment of the global economy. We are extremely proud that this project is moving forward to bring tens of thousands of job opportunities for our residents and to give our city its rightful place on the map as the forward-leaning, economically vibrant community that it truly is. Should the council approve tonight's agenda item, staff will enthusiastically present this proposal, this application, to the Environmental and Historical Preservation Board at its next meeting. As staff, we are very excited about Moreno Valley's vibrant future and the pivotal role that the World Logistics Center is already playing in our economic growth. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about this proposal.
Thank you, City Manager. So we'll go ahead and do council questions to staff, and we'll just do one round. If you would like any questions, go ahead and push your request to speak. Okay. We have Councilmember Gaiba, followed by Councilmember Cabrera.
City Attorney, somebody made a claim that there's still $100,000 outstanding on Highland Fairview's bill. Is that correct and accurate? I just want to make sure that he's not misstating something for the record.
The answer is no. I know it's not $100,000. That number, it's my recollection at this point in time. We've been receiving regular payments. I think the number is below that.
I just want to make sure that they're not misstating the proper information.
With an additional payment just coming in last week, actually.
Where are we with the developers' lawsuits? Can you fill us in on that?
The initiative lawsuit, which the city prevailed on, has been appealed and is awaiting a hearing in the Court of Appeals. The CEQA lawsuit is scheduled to be tried on January 22nd in Riverside.
And what would be the outcome of, what could be the possible outcome of that, the 22nd, January 22nd? I mean, give me the, if it prevails or if it doesn't prevail, one of those two, so we understand what's at stake here.
Well, if the city prevails, the lawsuit will be dismissed and the CEQA challenge would have been defeated. If the plaintiffs or the petitioners prevail, then the court will likely request that the EIR be amended in some fashion. Generally speaking, it's the challenges to EIR don't result in death of a project. They result in the ability to redo or revise the EIR. But anything from one end of the spectrum to the other is possible.
I don't know how to phrase this properly with a good question for you. Aquabella, was that project vacated?
I'm going to have to beg your forgiveness, but Aquabella predates my presence here, and
I
I
know.
really don't have an answer for you.
You have
I
an
could
answer?
certainly research it and provide you with an answer.
Because if I remember correctly, he requested to vacate Aquabella's specific plan. Am I correct on that?
Councilman, you may be referring to the development agreement, but the entitlements are still active.
Is Rick Zansmeyer here? Because Rick would really have the facts. Rick, is that? Could you give me some accuracy on that one? Because I vaguely
City manager,
remember.
is that okay?
Thank you, Mayor.
The Aquabella development was a specific plan that was approved.
Right.
The specific plan stays in place as the underlying development regulations for the property. As far as entitlement goes, there are no maps or plot plans or conditional use permits that have ever been completed for that project, so there's nothing waiting in the wings to be built. But the framework, the regulatory document stays in place. The development agreement had a initial term that went through 2016, and the parties elected not to extend it.
Right.
So the development agreement no longer exists.
I remember that, but I just want to get kind of the specifics on that particular one, if you don't mind. The development agreement for this developer's project called World Logistics Center, there are some conditions in that development agreement, if I remember correctly. One of them stated that he's only committing, now somebody correct me on this one, I'm doing it from memory, he would only commit to something like 8 million square feet in the first 10 years.
Councilman, I'd have to pull it up to read it, but the concept that you're referring to, the development agreement has an initial term. And if the prescribed number of square feet are developed in the initial term, the agreement extends into the second part of the term.
Okay, so as of right now, he hasn't broken any ground, am I correct? He hasn't put any infrastructure in or anything like that at this point?
I believe the city attorney just gave you the status of the court cases.
Well, when I had spoken to the president of Highland Fairview, he had mentioned that he could begin doing it anytime he wanted right now, except, the lawsuits wouldn't stop him from doing something. Could that be accurate?
That would be a business decision for any developer,
Correct.
whether to move forward or
But
wait
he
till
could, am I correct?
resolution.
But he could.
The developer does have the ability to move
I just wanted to
forward
make sure
for
that
the
he was
approvals.
not blowing smoke up my nose or anything like that. He said, I could start that project right now. And I said, well, go ahead and do it, So that's just a few questions I wanted to do and clarify some information for some of the general public. Thank you.
Councilmember Cabrera, council questions?
Thank you. I just have one question here. Have we, by any chance, reached out directly to Highland Fairview to see if they're willing to partner with us in terms of changing the name of the street and anything that we might incur? Have we reached out to them directly?
Staff has not done so. The council has not approved the application.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
All right, we're going to move towards deliberation. I don't see anybody else that pushed their button to speak. So I'm going to open up the floor, and we'll do one round, and then I'll go ahead and close it and then entertain a motion. Okay, Councilmember Gaiba?
Yep. Since you wait for me to do that, I'll do that quite freely. Part of my deliberation is just to clarify a few pieces of information that some of the folks didn't. By the way, the Juan Batista Trail was something that was in the works ever since I was on the Planning Commission, and we've had a grant from SCAG and other places to do that. So that is not a surprise. That's something that's been being worked on. So we do have those kinds of names, and those are being respected today. Somebody brought up the fact that jobs in progress. Mike, I think if my numbers are correct from the last, from the thing, in the past 3 years, at least since I've been elected, have we not put somewhere in the neighborhood of 14,000 jobs into this city?
Councilmember Guyman, the number is actually 14,000 jobs in the last 4 years.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the developer has been promising 20,000 jobs in the next 30 years. And even if he did it in the first 10 years, we've already begun to exceed that by wise economic development in this city. Also, we were mentioning, somebody mentioned the Theodore, didn't, you know, the name Theodore before he did. Or I'm quite sure that when Theodore had an idea, he didn't say, aha, I have an idea, and they said, okay, let's name a street after you. It wasn't until after the project had been completed and years later that you respect that in a historical environment. I've lived here for 35 years before it ever was a city. And I'm really proud to be here. I was a young man when I moved here. I'm an old man now. But so I'd like to know some of that history. You know, by the way, this city's been working on a museum for quite some time. I'm trying to find the, as a matter of fact, I think it was the Red Cross building, the old Red Cross building on March Air Reserve Base, which I'd like to look into a little bit more detail. I'll ask that as one of my things. So quite honestly, until ground breaks, I like what several people had to say, especially the gentleman back there. There's been no ground breakage. There's been nothing yet built here. And I think it would be fitting to the city and the residents. I like also the idea to let the residents vote for it, you know, if that's what they want. But to my thinking, we have a historical organization that did make the decision to change this. It was agreed upon, and by the way, I just had lunch with one of our past mayors, and it was agreed upon back then that we would preserve these things, not preserve them to be changed later, but preserve them for for posterity. So I'm really not in favor of moving forward on this project at all at this time, until I see activity taking place where it gives us reason and justification to do that. As far as I'm concerned, then there's no justification right now to be changing names of any streets just on a, aha, I have an idea or a plan that was approved. Until we see something, let's wait and see how it goes, because I think the one gentleman said it'd be a little bit of an embarrassment if, just like Aquabella didn't go through, just like the airport didn't go through, just like the housing tract didn't go through, if something failed in this, it would make us look a little silly to jump that track right away. I have no problem with giving it reconsideration when we start building out there. But that's my position on it. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Cabrera.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to say thank you to all the members of the Historical Society and the boards who came out today to speak, and everyone else as well who came out and gave their perspective. I would like to add on to my question, if we can, you know, moving forward, if this moves forward, I would like to reach out, if we can have the staff reach out to Highland Fairview to see how they would be willing to partner with us in this endeavor, whether it be the planning or recurring some of the cost, whatever it may be. Reach out to them, see how they'd be willing to work with us. I know they're very active in the community, and so I think that might be a good idea. Also, I really like Pete Bleckert's idea of keeping the north side the same, Theodore, and then the south side changing that to World Logistics Center. And also, I forget his name, but he made a good point regarding changing the end. So World Logistics Center Parkway, it should be something that actually fits the kind of road that it is. So, for example, a boulevard or a street, something that's appropriate instead of just throwing Parkway at the end. So if we can explore that as well. And also, I like the idea that I believe Leo brought it up of looking into the water station that's abandoned there on Cottonwood and Moreno Beach, I believe. If we can, you know, moving forward, possibly look into making that into a museum or revitalizing that site. If, you know, that's real history right there. It's an actual site that we can't allow to continue to deteriorate. If we can preserve that and make something out of that, I think I think that would benefit the city's history as well. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
So what I'm hearing from you is that you're for the north side?
Or changing the south side.
We're changing the south side and keeping the north side?
Correct.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Baca?
I just want to say thank you to everyone that came out and showed their enthusiasm either for or against changing the name of the Theodore Street. We're not setting a precedent like some of the speakers mentioned. Moreno Beach has been changed. Paris Boulevard has been changed. So they had different names, and JFK as well. So we're not setting a precedent, and I understand that many years ago we made changes, and perhaps the changes that we make, I'm pretty sure as a council, 30 years down the road, we won't be here, and, well, maybe you guys, but we won't, will make changes at that time. And that's what progress is all about. It's change, and we shouldn't be afraid of moving forward. So I would like to see that the council send this to the Historical Society, the Environmental and Historical Society, and bring it back with a recommendation. And at that time, we'll make the decisions on whether to go forward or not. But tonight, it's my understanding that we're giving direction to staff to take it to the Historical Society, and that's what we'll be voting on, correct? The attorney?
Yeah, thank you. If I may, Mayor, I think that staff at this point in time needs the direction from the council, as well as staff would appreciate the final decision on the application itself. In other words, if the council is considering changing the name to something other than the World Logistics Center Parkway, and changing the dimensions of the street that will be changed. In other words, right now the application proposes Ironwood to the southern terminus of the of Theodore. If the council, by majority or by unanimous consensus, wishes to make some changes to that application, this would be the time to provide those to staff, and that final application, assuming that you wish to move it forward, will move forward to the Environmental and Historical Board.
All right, and then I'll go ahead and speak as well. I just want to thank, number one, the audience for coming out. I know several have already left, but, you know, thank you for coming out and voicing your concerns. We saw a lot of new faces, definitely tonight, for this item. And I understand, you know, that there's the history behind it. You know, I'm very respectful, you know, to that. I do like what some of the speakers did mention, you know, about north of the freeway, you know, keeping that Theodore, and then south end, you know, changing that to logistics. And I believe, you know, if several said that, and also Councilmember Cabrera. And I think that might be a compromise, you know, But either way, that decision isn't actually going to be made anyways tonight, because we're just directing the staff to set a proposal to the Historical Preservation Board, and then it's going to come back to council. But I understand that you guys want direction as far as what do we want to do.
What is the application going to
Yes,
look like? Because we're
yes.
submitting an application, basically
Yeah, and I
assuming
got
an
that.
affirmative vote on the item.
Yeah, and I'll just say, you know, I feel comfortable with the compromise. So if there's a motion,
I'd like to make a motion that we rename Theodore to World Logistics Center Parkway, south of the Highway 60.
I'll second that motion.
and this is for you guys to fill out the application so that way you can go to the Historical Preservation Board.
That is correct.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so staff has been received the direction to, it's past 3-1, to go ahead and fill out the application to submit to the Historical Preservation Board, and then it will come back to council. We are on item A2, which is the 2018 City Council Commission Board and Task Force Participation Appointments. Report of City Clerk.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. The report before you is to ratify the mayor's appointments to the various council member participation in the commissions, boards, and task force, and also the interagency regional legislative bodies. the previous appointments expired on December 31st. Mayor Gutierrez has compiled the new 2018 council committee participation appointments, and they're presented to you attached to the staff report. This concludes my staff report. I'm prepared to answer any questions you may have.
And I just wanted to clarify that the reason why normally this is in the consent calendar that we have, at a regular city council meeting. But tonight I put it on the special meeting because we do have some boards and commissions that are coming up that we do need the council members to attend. And if we waited to the 16th to do it on the 16th, there would be more meetings that would have to be missed. In lieu of, of what, January 2nd, that meeting was canceled. So that's why, hence, we have it for January 9th. Okay. And we have Mayor Pro Tem Baca. Oh, okay. Or council questions? Oh, okay. Let me. Okay. Any deliberation? Okay. Entertain a motion.
So moved. I move that we approve staff recommendation 1 and 2.
Well, it's actually.
I'm sorry.
No, it's.
I make a motion that we ratify the appointments to the various commissions and boards as recommended by the mayor.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved by Mayor Pro Tem Baca, second by Councilmember Cabrera. Okay, please vote. And it's 3 yes and 1 abstention. Okay, would there be any city council requests or communications prior to going into the study session? Okay, we have Councilmember Gaiba.
Yes, I'd like the staff to look into being able to use Park and Rec money on behalf of the Ecological and Historical Preservation Board to look at that Red Cross building on March Air Reserve Base, which is really our park area and that's part of the city, to refurbish that and use it for our museum.
Is there any support? Okay, seeing there's none. Do you have another request, Mayor Pro Tem or
No, not me.
Councilmember? No. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and there's no more business before the council for this special meeting. So the adjourn time is 7:50, and then we're going to 6:50, and then we're going to give the media people 2 minutes, and we'll start the study session.